All right, hello everyone. We're getting started here and everyone's getting connected. Okay, good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us for our first Fresno City College campus training on Adobe Sign. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan Elam. I am the Executive Assistant for Don Lopez, our Vice President of Instruction. And presenting with me this morning, we have Alex Wrigley. He is our Adobe Sign Customer Success Manager. We also have Susie Mitchell, our Professional Development Coordinator, who's going to be assisting and monitoring the chat. Moving forward, you do have the Q&A function available for any questions as we go through this presentation. And then we also have our interpreters, Javier and Chelsea, with us this morning as well. Alrighty, Alex, if you want to go ahead and get us started here.
Thanks for the intro, Megan. Good morning, folks. I'm Alex Wrigley. I am your Adobe Sign focused Customer Success Manager. That means I work with our SCCCD customers, Fresno City College, included, to train folks on how to use Adobe Sign, to learn what Adobe Sign is. And so delighted to be here. Happy Friday. I'm up here in not so sunny San Jose today, but delighted to be here and share a little bit about Adobe Sign and how to use it. So folks, why don't I start with what Adobe Sign is? Adobe Sign is a tool that helps folks get signatures and collect information on forms digitally, right? We are moving away from paper-based and manual process to a more digital approach to managing our document workflows. And so Adobe Sign is a tool that helps you collect, again, electronic signatures for your agreements and contracts and to get forms filled out. And it's really easy to use once you've had a little practice with it. If you're comfortable using email to send out a form or to email someone and add an attachment, I think you'll find that the experience within Adobe Sign is pretty similar. So I'm going to pause right here and hand it back to Megan. I think she's going to step us through the process of actually getting logged into Adobe Sign.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Give me one moment here. I'm just going to take over screen sharing. Okay, so what we have done is utilizing the Fresno City College faculty and staff page. We have added a direct link for Adobe Sign. So if you navigate to the faculty and staff page on Fresno City College and scroll down under quick links, under the Commons section, there is a link right here for Adobe Sign. So once you click this link, it's going to take you directly to our sign-in process, which I will go over with you now. So link takes you here, which is our acrobat.adobe basic sign-in page. In the upper right-hand corner, you're going to click Sign In. At that point, you're going to want to utilize your Fresno City College email, which is our first name last name at fresnocitycollege.edu for the majority of us. It's your state center email, so if you have the SCCCD or another college, it's that same email. Once you click into the password field, it's going to jump you to our single sign-in page. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that for you. It'll give you that please wait message, and then it's going to jump you to our normal sign-in. Here, you're going to want to utilize the our initials and our 3-digit code, as well as your normal password sign-in, and make sure that you're on the employee selection. And once you hit login, that's going to take you to the home field for Adobe Sign. And at this point, Alex is going to take over and kind of walk us through everything that we can do with the home screen.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, give me a sec here and I will jump in there. All right, folks, are you seeing my screen? My dashboard is the one with the Olympic rings in the upper left. Megan, can you confirm?
Yeah, looks good.
All right, great. All right, folks, welcome to the Adobe Sign homepage where you land after logging in. From here, we're going to have quick access to most of the features and functions found within Adobe Sign. At the top left here, you'll see a quick link to the Home tab, the Send tab, the Manage tab. The Manage tab is where we're going to go to manage all of our assets and all of our forms in our Adobe Sign account. Reports tab, click on that. That helps us to create a report about usage and other things within Adobe Sign. And then because I'm an account admin in my demo account, I have this extra account tab. Most of you guys won't see that. So you'll see Home, Send, Manage, and Reports. As we continue to work across the screen here, we'll see at the kind of middle center of the screen, I have in progress, waiting for you, in events and alerts. And so what these links give us access to are in progress means these are workflows that I may have initiated. And so I see a specific number here. I've got 50, what we call in flight. And so it gives me a quick link to those. If I click in progress, it brings me to the Manage tab and opens up my in progress folder. So I can then dive into a specific workflow and take some actions. I'll head home again, and then waiting for you will do the same thing. It will open up the Manage tab and open up my waiting for you folder. And that means I'm a participant in 12 workflows here. And so those workflows are waiting for me to take action. I may need to get in there and sign or approve or delegate or any other function that has been assigned to me in that workflow. And then events and alerts, if I click on that link, it's just going to give me notifications around things happening in my Adobe Sign account. I had this student leave of absence form. It looks like it was viewed by me. And then it just goes on the list other forms and workflows and things that are happening with them. So you'll see that in events and alerts right here from the home screen. If we move to the center of the screen, we'll have a quick link to send a document for signature. On the big blue button there will actually also take me to the Send tab. So I can click on Send or I can click on Request Signatures. It'll take me to the same place. Let me do that here just so you guys can see. And this is what we call the Send page in Adobe Sign. This is how we're going to manually set up a workflow. And again, as I mentioned before, if you're comfortable sending out an email and adding an attachment, I think this will be very familiar for you guys. Let's head home one more time. I want to point out, here's the Start from Library button. If I click on the Start from Library button, it's going to show us and give us access to any templates that may have been published for our account or workflows that have been set up. I won't dive into those, but later on, you'll likely start using templates and workflows eventually in the account. And these will be provided to you. All right. Looking down at the bottom of the homepage here, we'll see Fill and Sign a Document. Fill and Sign a Document is for, it's a tool when somebody emails you a form and asks you to sign it. So instead of you taking that form, printing it out, wet signing it, scanning it, and then emailing it back to the person. All you have to do is hit fill and sign. I'll click on that now. And all you have to do is drop that file in here, give it a name, hit the next button, and all you have to do is lay down a signature field, and then you can sign it right then and there. And then it's saved. You can email it back. So it takes out this step of downloading it, printing it out, wet signing it, and emailing it back. It saves you a few clicks. It makes it much easier to get a form signed, sent to you the old-fashioned way. I'm gonna skip over some of these additional features. I just will quickly point them out. Publishing a web form. If you guys get advanced enough at some point, you're gonna probably want to set up what we call self-serve forms. And a web form is a form that you can put on your website or send a URL or link to, and people can just initiate on their own. Sending in bulk with MegaSign, that's a feature to allow you to send one form to many people at once, in case you have those use cases. Creating a reusable template. I'm actually going to walk you through how to send one form in an ad hoc fashion or a one-off. But if you needed to create a form that needs to be used over and over, this is the feature here, creating a reusable template that will allow you to do that. Manage and track all agreements. This is going to take you over to the Manage tab. So just another quick link for that. And then enhance your account. That will allow you to set up your own personal preferences for your account. All right, I'm gonna pause right there and ask Megan and Susie if there are any questions in the chat pod so far. All right.
We do have one in regards to fill and sign. If we're utilizing fill and sign straight from Adobe Sign through this portal, are we using the web application when we set up the document for signatures?
Yes, you are. Thank you that's a great question. I should have pointed out that the Adobe Sign tool is a web application. And so all of your interaction with Adobe Sign will be through the web portal. And so that's correct. If you're going to use the fill and sign feature, you'll be using it here in the Sign application in your browser. All right. Let's see, just kind of going through here. I wanted to point out that right now we're looking at the new experience for the Home tab. Some of you may have the legacy or classic experience. And so this has just a little bit of a different look and feel than the one that you're used to. We do want to point out that eventually all users will be moved to this new interface. And so just a heads up, it's coming. There's also going to be a new manage experience. So I'll show that to you guys once we jump into the manage tab. But what we're going to do next is we're going to send a form for signature. I'm going to send something to Megan to sign. And so what I'm going to do is I'll just hit that request signatures button. It's going to bring up the send tab. And now I just have to start crafting my workflow. So we're going to add Megan in as a recipient. And I just need her email address. Folks who are receiving a request to sign something or a form to fill out do not need to have an Adobe Sign account. They just need to have access to an email and a browser, right? Only folks who are sending need to have an Adobe Sign account. All right, so I've added Megan into the workflow here. Right now, I'm going to decide what kind of role or what kind of participation interaction she's going to have with this form. In my account, I have these options available. So I can set up Megan as a signer, as an approver, an acceptor, a certified recipient, a form filler, or a delegator. Just for simplicity, we're going to keep her as a signer. And then over here in this little dialog bubble, I could add a private message to her if we had multiple folks in this workflow added. But it's only going to be one person. So I'll just keep that there. If I needed to continue to add folks into the workflow, I could just throw in some email addresses here. And now we're starting to create workflow. So in this, right now, as it stands, the form would flow to Megan. After she signs, it would go to Jan. And after Jan signs, it would go to Tom for signature. But we'll keep it simple. We'll just have one recipient. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a file. And so I'm going to grab something locally here from my computer. You guys shared the fillable form here. So I'm going to add that.
And I do just want to add in real quick, if I could, Alex.
Please.
The first time that you add in a signature using the web portal here, you will have to type in the whole email address. After you've done it one time, it will come up as a default once you start typing their name, and you can select it.
That's a good point. Thank you, Megan. Yes, for the first time you're sending it out, Adobe Sign doesn't remember it, but once you've sent something to someone, it will then auto suggest. So if I put in JA, I'll see that I've got several suggestions for folks I've sent something to before. There's Jan. It's easy to pop her in. All right, now that I've added my file, in the message area here, the Adobe Sign will populate the form name into the message header here. And then all I need to do is add some additional instruction or a message to my recipient. It auto-populated, please review and complete the Fresno City College absence form. But I can continue to add some information. All right, now looking over here at the right middle widget, we have options to set a completion deadline or to set reminders. And so if I hit a completion deadline and I set it to 3 days, let's see, we'll set it to 2 days. In 48 hours after I hit send, this agreement will be terminated if no one has signed. And so that's a way to set up a completion deadline and then kill the transaction if necessary. So you just add that there, and then again, that agreement will expire. The link that is sent to the signer will no longer be valid. I can set a reminder at these frequencies. And so if any participants in the workflow haven't taken action after a day, week, business day, et cetera, they will be reminded via email notification. All right, looks like we're set up here on the send screen. And so I have this preview and add signature fields box checked. And if I click next, that's going to pull us into the authoring environment in Adobe Sign. And the authoring environment is where we just add fields onto the form. There we go. And so this form has already been prepared. We've got some fillable fields. We have a signature field on here. I want to differentiate between two different types of signature fields. There's electronic, which 99% of all our customers and higher education use cases use. And in the authoring environment, you'll see signature fields distinguished here. You have just signature and then digital signature. You don't want to use digital signatures unless you have a very specific use case and know about digital signatures because they require a third-party digital certificate. So again, just we want to hone in on that. Only use the signature field, which is an electronic signature field, to capture signatures from recipients. And so I'm going to double click into the signature field here, and I can check the field type on that drop down. It does show regular signature instead of digital, so we're good to go. I'm going to delete this one here, and the form is ready to go. Just want to make sure we have I've captured everything here in the request. Looks like we're good to go. I want to pause and ask if there's any questions from the authoring environment.
So we did have a question come up on the, I'm sorry, on the date field.
Yes.
Before, when we were starting to utilize this, our date field settings were defaulted to UK settings, where the date and month were backwards. We did get that default changed so that now, Alex, could you go ahead and click into the date field so we can display the current settings that it shows up as?
Yeah.
So right now they're defaulted to US, where it shows the month abbreviation and then the date and the year. So that is the current default, but you can go in there and customize it to change it how, if you prefer a different type of date display there. And then Alex, could you talk to us a little bit about what kind of browsers are best compatible with Adobe?
All modern day browsers are compatible with Adobe. Let me see. I think I have this in the FAQ readily available. There. Oh, that's not it. It's right here. You know, I'm going to follow up with you guys on that one. But most modern browsers support the Adobe Sign application. All right. Stepping back into the authoring environment, I did want to just point out some of the additional fields available when you're in here. In the right-hand column, we are able to drag and drop these different types of fields. If I need to grab a name field, it's really easy to just bring it on over onto your form. You just grab the corner and then you can resize it to the appropriate size for your form and available real estate. And if you double left click into a field, it will always bring up the customization menu. And that's where you can decide who you're going to assign it to. If you have multiple recipients, the field type, the name style. You can always customize the actual field name. So we just call this, right now it's just saying name one, but I can customize that, full name. And that way, if you eventually run a report on a form, you'll get some good data back in your CSV. Let's see, some additional data fields. I want to point out the text input field under data fields is really the workhorse of all the fields in Adobe Sign. It's the one that can be easily customized in case we don't have a predefined field available for your form. So you can just double click in here, you give it a name, you can decide if you need to make the field required. It throws down a little red asterisk. We can mask field data. So if it's sensitive data that needs to be protected, you can mask the field data, and then any information entered into there will be covered with asterisks, and only folks who are able to pull out form data who are authorized will be able to get that information. Like if you were adding a social security number, that's one way to protect that. We can add validations into a field so that we're capturing the right kind of information. Just like the date field, if I make this a US social security number, then I will not be able to add special symbols or letters. I will only be allowed to add numbers, and I will only be allowed to add 9 numbers. That's the social security numbers are the sequence of 9 digits. So that's what validations do, help you get good data. Pause right there. We have drop-down fields that can be easily customized. I can get in here, and in the drop-down options, we have option 1 and option 2, but I can easily add option 3 or whatever I need to add into there. It's easy just to type in. You make it required again. I can set a default value. Let's say option 2, but we can make it editable. Tooltip. A tooltip is displayed when you hover your mouse cursor over a field. And so if we are creating a social security field and we throw that here into the tooltip, when someone hovers over this, it's going to show social security number, helping to guide your signer. All right. We have fields for checkboxes, radio buttons, images. We can even add a file attachment field, so that if you need to capture additional information or documents from your signer, you can add this file attachment, and then that will be bundled along with your absence form here. But I'm going to go ahead and just delete these fields out for simplicity of the demo. And I think we're ready to go. Megan, I'm going to hit send here, and you should check your inbox in the next 5 or 10 seconds, and you should see receipt. And I think you'll want to do the screen share at this point.
Yeah, so I did want to take over screen share at this point as soon as I get the email, because I do want to show what it looks like whenever we receive an email from Adobe. So let me do that. Okay. So now you can see that I received this email, and you note that it doesn't say from Alex. It says, you know, oops.
It says student services. I set up my account to be more of a service account, so it doesn't look personalized from me. You know, we're representing a department, if you will.
Yeah, so when the forms come through from Adobe, they're going to look something like this. Whenever I send them, they say Megan Elam, you know, Adobe Sign at adobesign.com. So those are what the prompts, these are pretty similar to what they look like whenever we receive them on email. And then from here, once you click the review and sign option, and once it loads, you'll see the message prompts up, just asking me to, you know, go through. Once you start the process, then you're prompted to fill in all of the different fields that are assigned.
And Megan, you can jump straight to the signature, because that's the only one that has the asterisk, and therefore the only one required to complete the signing process. So want to point that out, folks. If you make a field optional, people can skip those. So
yeah, so the rest of these fields that are up here, while they're yellow and I could fill them out, how we set them up, they weren't mandated or assigned. So that's just going back to how you're sending the form. But at this point, if you click out to it, even though you have signed, it won't send the document. You have to click the little blue button down at the very bottom where it says click to sign. And that is how you would officially sign your form.
Megan, before you hit click to sign, can we point out a couple of options here in the signing experience? So ladies and gents, in the upper left there's the options drop down. Megan, will you click that? Yeah. And so there's additional options here for our recipients to take. If, for example, they are not authorized to sign this form, there's an option there to delegate signing to another. If you want to decline to sign, you can decline here and add some reason or rationale why you need to decline. Maybe there's an error or something on the form and you need the sender to resend it and correct that. If you want to do it the old-fashioned way and throw down a wet signature, there's the print, sign, and upload option. So you'll be able to print out the form, wet sign it, and then upload it back into this electronic workflow. And if you need to clear document data, etc., or view history of the workflow, you can click on that. And if you just need to download the PDF, there's that option too. Yeah, here's what we call the Audit Trail. And this shows you all of the participants, when the form was created, IP addresses of recipients or participants in the workflow. This is the form that really makes a electronic signature enforceable in court and legal, because we have all this information. It shows intent to sign and additional information that's really important for e-signature legality. So All right, Megan, did you want to go ahead and hit click to sign unless there's something else you wanted to cover here?
The only other thing was you do also have the option here where you can download a PDF of your form if you were needing that. And that can also be done upon the form's completion as well. So once you click to sign, it processes the document. It'll give you the "you're all set" field, and then you should receive an email as well that says, you know, after everyone has completed it, that the form has been completed. And then the person who sent the form out for signature, if there are multiple signers, they get an email after each signer has done their portion. And then that form is automatically routed to the next signer as well if there are multiple signers on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. All right. One thing I did miss, let me resume my screen share here, is I forgot to mention the CC option. So if I go back to the send tab and setting up the send, there's this option here, this hyperlink show CC. And if I add in an email here, this person is going to be CC'd. That means they'll receive a completed copy of the form that's being sent. They don't participate in the workflow in any other way. It's simply so that they can have a copy if they need to archive it, or, you know, if they're part of a department that needs to further process the form, they simply can be added here as a CC, and you can add as many as you need. All right. From here, folks, we're going to go to managing our assets within Adobe Sign. And again, from the Home tab, we can either hit Manage or Manage. Yep.
Alex, it's Susie. Before you move on, we do have a couple of questions in the
Sure.
Q&A. Number one, Renee asked, are we saving our signature in the fill and sign area?
You can actually save your signature. Yes. Let me show you how to do that. I gotta move this little window. There we go. When you're in the tool, when you're in the sign application, if you go over to your name, which is going to be here in the upper right, you can click on My Profile. And in My Profile, you'll have this column here with personal preferences. If I go to My Signature, I can create my signature. And so I can draw it using my mouse, or if I'm using my smartphone or my tablet, I can use my finger, and that creates what we call biometric signature. I can actually upload an image, take a picture of my wet signature and upload it into Adobe Sign. I can send it to myself in real time, and I'll be able to sign off my phone. I already got the text here. And so what I'll do, you guys can see me, I got a text from Adobe Sign, and it says, set up your signature. And then I'm just going to use my finger, and boom, hit done, sending it back. There it is. And now I've set up my signature under Profile in Adobe Sign. And now this is saved. And anytime you sign or you fill out an initial field, once you click in, Adobe Sign remembers that and just auto-populates that. And so that's true for fill and sign as well.
Thank you. Debbie wants to know, how do we turn on the comment option that you showed in step one?
Let me see the comment option. Was it here during the send setup, Debbie? Or was it in the form in the authoring environment?
Yes, during send.
During send. Okay. So let's see. There's Megan. See, she's remembered now that I sent her something. Here is the option to add her a private message. Is that what you were looking for, Debbie?
Yes, that does not show on her account.
That does not show on her account. Okay. Some of this stuff are actual account settings that need to be enabled. And so if there is something that I'm showing that you're not seeing, it's for that reason. And so your administrators for Adobe Sign can choose to enable that for you. So if that's needed, Susie, Megan, let me know and I can walk you guys through how to enable some of these settings.
Okay, and Mark has a question. Actually, Mark has two.
Mm-hmm.
Will the document fields expand to fit the text input?
Very good question. No, they do not. And so that is kind of a limitation, and for a good reason, right? If a text field were to expand, it may start to cover copy or text on the form itself. So that's why we don't have these dynamic fields that resize. And so if you have to capture multi-line information, our suggestion is to add enough real estate on the form so that you can have several fields to capture that. You can set it up so that that it carries over. Text will actually be kind of auto-sized into the field if you kind of it'll make the font smaller to add more, but at some point you won't be able to capture that information in the field. You won't be able to see it anymore. It'll be truncated, if you will. The only way to get that additional information added into that field would be to run a report and get the field data out of it. And then you would get that on a CSV, but you wouldn't be able to see it. So yeah, you do have to be, deliberate in how you create those fields if you need to capture a lot of information from your signers.
Great. And Mark's second question is, how will you attach documents to the signed form you're returning?
Megan, do you mind if we show them real quick?
Yeah, if you want to send me another one, we can walk them through.
We'll just add that same form. So Mark, here's that same file we just sent. I'm going to step back into the authoring environment. And this is the flat version. So I just need to add a signature field here for Megan. And then I'll grab the file attachment field. We'll just throw it right down here. I'll make it, I won't make it required, but we'll just show you what it looks like. I'll hit send. I'll stop sharing. Megan, will you take over?
Yep, let me get mine up. And then just to show you, whenever I finished signing that first one that we did, this is the email that you get upon completion. It just shows that you're done signing and it gives you a copy of that signed form. And this is the one that Alex just sent me. And then from there, by having that block in there to add an attachment, once I click into that, it'll let me attach the file. Once that finishes uploading, then you can click to sign, and that sends the document attached back to Alex, and I'll let him take over to kind of demonstrate what that'll look like.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. All right, so I'm back into Adobe Sign, and this is a nice segue into managing in Adobe Sign, right? So we're gonna head on over to the Manage tab, and then let's move this over here. I have quick access to all of my forms, and so if I need to look at workflows that are in progress, here's the in progress folder. Waiting for me. Again, if I'm a countersigner in a workflow or I need to approve or something, the system lets me know. Megan just completed a couple of workflows for us. And so this is the newest one, is on top here. And so what I do, if I click on that, I get some information in the right-hand column here about the form, when it was created. Let's see, the status shows signed. the message that was populated. I've got some additional actions I can take with this form. I can open it here, download it, download the audit report that we showed you earlier. I can download form field data. So if there was, information I needed to capture, I think Mark brought up, if you had a field where you added a lot of information and, it kind of ran over and got truncated, this is where you'd be able to get information from that field into a CSV. I can hide this once I'm done, working with this form. You can also unhide it eventually if you need to be able to recover that. If you hide it, just is hidden from your view in your completed folder. I can share it. If it's still in flight or it's still in progress, I can send a reminder manually. I can add notes here that are saved. This is a personal note just for me if I need to remember something specific about this form and agreement. I can download the individual files, and let's do that. Or let me show you one more thing. We have the file attachments here, right? This is what Megan added. And so I can keep that separate. Or if I just download the individual file, it'll bundle them together. All right, I'll click that open here. And oh, it looks like I didn't enable a setting that bundles them together. So I'd have to manually get this one here. And it's funny, you attach the same form that we're working with today. So this is the attachment. And so then I'm able to work with it. So again, we got some additional options down here. If I scroll down, I can see recipient information. And so we see that Megan was our recipient, email address, her role in the workflow. She was a signer. Authentication is how we verified her identity. In this case, we usually send most stuff using an email identity verification, meaning, only Megan has access to her inbox. So we feel, confident that she is who she is when she signs and when we send her something via that mechanism. If I click on the activity, this gives us kind of a quick overview of the workflow and an audit trail. We'll see starting at the bottom that student services with my email address here created a form at 10:37. We sent it out. Megan viewed it at 10:38, and then she signed at 10:39. So these are all the options here available with completed forms. There's some additional stuff that we can take a look at for forms that are in flight. Let me open up this student leave of absence form and show you some additional information. So right now I set an expiration date for this particular form. If you have this little edit pencil, that means you can go in and change that. So if you need to push it out or tighten it up, you can do that there. For the expiration date, I see the status is out for signature. I can open the agreement and it shows me, here's the form coming up. Looks like there hasn't been any action taken on it, still with the first recipient. So let me head back. I can send a manual reminder here again. I can cancel out this agreement. I can do it quietly, or I can notify all recipients. Let's see if there's anything else in here. No additional information. Well, I do want to show you that when you have a form in progress or workflow in progress, you are oftentimes provided the option to edit recipients. So this first recipient here, student services, I can come in, I can come in and I can edit the signer's identity verification. I was using email, but if I need to have a more stringent identity verification, in this case, I can do that here. Let's see, for recipients further down the line, I can either replace the recipient, meaning changing who is actually going to sign for that step. or I can add an alternate recipient so that both Alex, sorry, a little tricky there. Alex, both Alex could sign, but then I could also add in Megan here. Let me just do that here. I can add Megan. And so now Megan's gonna get an email, and any one of us can sign on behalf of, or for that step, Megan or myself. And so those are the additional actions available from the Manage tab. I want to pause and check if there are any questions in the chat. All right.
Alex, it wasn't in the chat, but this is one that frequently happens, where we have someone, instead of signing through Adobe Sign, they, maybe download the document and manually sign it and then send us the signed copy separately.
Okay.
Can you go over how we can upload that signed version that we've received from them?
Okay, so someone signs and you want to take that signed form and send it to others for signature? Is that the use case?
No, like if we had sent out a form for someone to sign, and instead of signing it through Adobe, we have the option to upload a signed document. Can you go over that feature?
Yeah, let me see. Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. This document will be used as okay. So thank you for pointing that out. Okay. So if you have a workflow in progress and you want to replace the electronic form that's going through with a signed paper version that's been scanned, you can come to your workflow, you highlight it, go down to actions, and under, you need to expand it, but there's the upload signed document. And so what we'll do is we'll add the file here, and we'll just grab that wherever that is, and then we'll upload it, and that signed version that was manually signed will then replace the electronic one and then close out this in progress form. So as you see, this document will be used as the completed agreement. And that way, in case someone downloaded it, wet sign and then emailed it back to you outside of the Adobe Sign workflow, we can merge the two.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's a good one. All right. So we showed delegating a signer under Manage tab. I want to make sure we're capturing everything here. We talked about waiting for you, completed. Oh, let's talk about canceled. So you have a canceled folder in your Manage tab. And so this is where all your canceled workflows will be displayed. Expired workflows, right? They hit the completion deadline. And so this is where your record of that is going to be displayed. Archived. Here is your archive folder, and then draft. So anything that you started but didn't quite finish is going to be here in your draft folder. If I click on that, I can continue to edit the agreement. Maybe, I did something here and just needed to, I needed to step away to get more information. I can go back to that draft and then finish out adding fields and then hit send. And I think that covers everything we wanted to talk about on the Manage tab. I did want to point out that further down we have templates, web forms, and MegaSign. I know it's not part of today's scope to talk about this, but in the future, if you do author templates or web forms or send out a form for bulk signature using MegaSign, this is where you're going to be able to access those assets. Now we're going to step into talking about the Reports tab. I'm going to keep it light, but when you hit the Reports tab, you'll be able to create a new report. As an individual user within your Sign account, you'll only be able to run reporting for yourself. For admins or group admins, they'll be able to run reporting for either the whole account or for their group. But I'll just show you what that kind of looks like. I'm going to show activity for last month. I can specify, since I'm an account admin, if I want to include all users in my account, or I can filter by specific individual users or groups. Let's leave it simple. And there's some additional parameters we can set here for how the report is displayed, but I'll just hit Run Report. And we're going to take a look at all forms sent through Adobe Sign in my account last month. So get the date range here, shows all the groups that were included, and then we'll see this nice graphical report. It shows us the number of agreements that have been completed, our median time to complete, right? It kind of really gives us an idea of how much time we're now saving and going from a manual process to an electronic workflow process. Our average time to get a form signed is now 42 minutes. We'll see that 22 forms were sent, how many were canceled, what's still out there for signature, how many have been completed, and the number of unique senders, in my case, for my demo account. And if I scroll down, we'll see agreements sent by date, when they were completed, the agreements by senders in my own account here, etc. So lots of great information when you run a report. Gonna head home now and just pause to open up Q&A.
So Alex, Mark had a question. I referred him to our local technology support, but maybe you can, I know that your specialty is Adobe Sign. Mm-hmm. Adobe Sign has taken over my personal Adobe Acrobat account and keeps giving me this message. Your personal account has been deactivated. Please review our terms of service and contact Adobe customer support if you believe this is an error. Help.
Hey, Mark. Yes, I know what that note is about and what you're experiencing. How to best put this? For our customers like FCCC, you're covered by a certain type of agreement, and that agreement has enabled within Acrobat the ability to send forms for signature right from Acrobat. The problem is that what's happening is we're creating these small individual Adobe Sign accounts that are not centrally IT managed by your organization. And so, if you're sending out agreements on behalf of your college, and the college should really be the owners of those forms and of your account. And what happens is, because that functionality was enabled before, we were creating these individual accounts, and therefore, your organization didn't have ownership of them. And so we had to go back and disable that. And so now, if you still need that functionality, Mark, what we are doing is we're provisioning users with Adobe Sign Enterprise accounts. And so the Adobe Sign Enterprise account is managed by your organization. All the assets are therefore owned by your college, and it's all centrally managed either by IT or by your department or group, et cetera. And so the way to reinstate that functionality in Acrobat is to have an Adobe Sign Enterprise license assigned to you. And that the two systems will talk, and your send for signature functionality should be restored.
So as a follow-up, this is my personal Adobe license. Why does the organization, meaning State Center, have control?
Mark, are you using your your organization's email address, your work address?
Yes.
Yeah, that's because your organization probably has claimed the domain, so therefore they own your, at, fc.edu email address. I'm not sure if that's the one, but so they technically own the domain, and so that's where it gets a little bit tricky. But in any case, yeah, if you needed that functionality restored in Acrobat, then you'd want to be assigned an enterprise sign license. But if you needed to keep it separate, your personal stuff separate, I would say you should change the email address associated with your Acrobat account to a personal email address. And then that will free up your work email to be used for the work account here.
And then Mark says, got it, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jeannie has a question. How do you edit a document after it's signed?
Good question. So let's head back to the Manage tab. Oh, did you say after it's been signed?
After it's been signed. You can't, can you?
That's right. Once a form has been signed by any participant, that form is then locked down for legal purposes. Let's say we have a contract that involves, monetary values. We've got 3 people participating, 3 signers. If the first person signs and they're agreeing to a certain, dollar value in the contract, and then signer 2 also signs agreeing to that, if the third signer is able to go in, or if the sender is able to go in and change the values on that form, that negates what the first 2 recipients were agreeing to, right? And so from a legal standpoint, that would, invalidate the agreement. So for security purposes, and to maintain the integrity of that form, it's locked down. So if you had to change something, you would need to resend the form with the corrected information, and then cancel out that initial one. Very good question. Yeah.
We have 3 minutes.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes. I wanted to point out something really important when you're in the application, when you're in the Sign tool. In the upper right-hand corner, you've got the question mark. If you hit the drop down, you'll see that we have quick links to the user guide and tutorials. And so if you click on the user guide, it brings up a new tab, and we've got lots of great links here to information around the Adobe Sign product. If I click on tutorials, I would strongly suggest this one. It'll show you how to do things in Adobe Sign. For beginners, sending a document for signature, the thing we covered today. How to set up routing and signing order. If you're an experienced user, click on that. It'll show you how to modify a transaction in flight or swap out a form in there. If you need to delegate to someone else, again, creating a report, all kinds of stuff in here for more advanced users. And so again, when you're in the tool, upper right-hand corner, question mark, hit the drop down for tutorial and user guide, and then you get a lot of self-serve resources.
And our last question is from G.
Mm-hmm.
He asks, please share how accessibility is addressed in Adobe Sign.
So the Adobe Sign experience does support accessibility for the initial signer. So if there's just one person in the workflow, the platform meets accessibility standards. The form that travels through Adobe Sign for signature, that has to be created and made. You have to make sure that that form is accessible from the get-go. And so as an example, you can create accessible forms within Acrobat if you're starting from scratch. Or I know Microsoft Word also allows you to create accessible forms. And so as long as it starts off accessible and then travels through Adobe Sign, it maintains that accessibility and meets those standards. A lot of times folks are simply uploading forms, they're scanning forms and sending it through. It does not meet accessibility compliance standards at that point because the form isn't accessible to begin with. So it's a really good question. I can send some additional information if Megan or Susie let me know if that's needed.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. I can stay on for a few minutes, folks, if there's more questions.
Yeah, if there are more questions and anyone feels like staying on, please feel free to put them into the chat. Otherwise, we are at time. So thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. We do have 2 further trainings coming up on the 24th at 2 o'clock and the 29th at 11. Alex will be with us again. All of these sessions are going to be recorded and uploaded to our professional development YouTube channel. And then as far as myself, I also hold office hours on Thursdays from 2 to 3. Please feel free to send me an email for the link if you're interested in speaking with me further or bringing up anything that you would like to see in these 2 further trainings that we didn't go over today.
All right, folks, thank you for your time and attention. Best wishes getting started with Adobe Sign. Once you try it and you get comfortable with it, there's no going back to the old way. And so let me know how I can support that. And until we meet again, folks, stay healthy and take care.
Debbie has a question. If you're sending a document for signature and date and the form locks upon first signature, how is the second signature signer able to add the date?
So if there's 2 signers and there's a date field provided for each participant, Adobe Sign will recognize and auto-populate the date field information for each recipient. But you have to make sure when you're in the authoring environment that you're adding a date field and making sure it's assigned for that recipient. So let me just show you. We'll throw in Megan. We'll throw in. I can just add myself actually. If I hit add.
You'll need to screen share again, Alex. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Where'd it go? Sorry, guys. Here we go. All right, so I'm setting up another send here. I added Megan, I added myself. I hit the add me button and adds me into the workflow. So we now have 2 signers, right? And we'll go ahead and add our absence form. All right, there it is. And so actually I'll put myself first before Megan, and then we'll step into the authoring environment. Okay, so I'm a participant, and so I'm going to throw down a signature field here for myself. Size that up, and then I will add a signer information field. I'll throw a date field here, and I know that it's assigned to me because the little color flag here in the upper right corner for each field is showing the same color. It's like a magenta. But now what I can do is I can switch to a different recipient, and that'll change all the fields to them. If I hit this drop down in recipients, we now change it over to Megan. So now whenever I grab one of these fields, it'll be assigned to Megan. So I need to assign Megan a signature field below mine here. She's my supervisor. Throw her there, throw that signature field. And now I will make sure that I assign a date field to her as well. Double click, make sure, yeah, those are good. Okay, so now each recipient has their own respective date field. I'm going to hit sign and then send. Click in here. Adobe Sign auto recognizes the date under which I'm signing. Today is the 19th, so it populates that for me in the date field. I'll click to sign. And then Megan, I'm going to stop sharing. Do you want to screen share your experience on that? It's going to be the same thing. Want to make sure that if that's covering the concern for that question. Is that Debbie?
Yes, it was Debbie.
You see, Debbie, how it's now populating the date field for Megan as well. And so if Megan didn't sign this until tomorrow, it would auto-populate with the 20th.
And Debbie, I've unmuted you, so no need
Yeah.
to.
No,
Is that what
saw
you were
the
looking
little
for?
notice. Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Great.
Any other questions from the audience before we let Alex go? Okay, thank you for those of you who stayed after. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Alex, for doing this. I know it was very beneficial to me, and I'm sure our colleagues got a lot out of it too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Megan, for hosting. And as always, thank you, Javier and Chelsea, for interpreting. Happy Friday, and everybody have a really good weekend. Bye-bye.
Likewise. Take care, everybody.
Bye.